Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Welcome everyone to another fascinating deep dive into the world of rare coins, where tiny pieces of metal that most people pass by without even giving a second thought can actually turn out to be worth life-changing sums of money. And today we are going to explore the astonishing story of the 2016 1-cent coin that some collectors and numismatic experts value at an unbelievable $50 million because of its unique combination of errors, minting mistakes, and mysterious circumstances that surround its production and survival, making it one of the most captivating tales in modern coin history. So sit back as we take you on a journey into the world of minting technology, human oversight, collector passion, market frenzy, and the improbable but true phenomenon of how a coin that was originally made to be just a single cent, a simple penny, can rise to a position of being a holy grail in coin collecting circles, worth more than mansions, yachts, or even some paintings by world-famous artists. And as we begin, it's important to understand that the 2016 penny itself was supposed to be ordinary, minted in massive quantities like billions of other pennies that year, designed with the familiar image of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Union Shield on the reverse. Yet out of that enormous production run, a few rare examples emerged that carried anomalies so profound that they pushed this simple coin into the realm of numismatic legend. And when we speak about errors, we are not talking about tiny scratches or post-mint damage that happens when a coin circulates, but instead we are focusing on actual mint errors, those mistakes that occur during the official striking and manufacturing process at the United States Mint. And what makes the 2016 penny stand out is that multiple types of errors are believed to exist on a very small handful of surviving specimens, some of which are so unique that no two appear to be exactly alike. And when you combine rarity with mystery and add the fervor of high-end collectors competing for ownership, you get the kind of explosive value that pushes the price tag into tens of millions of dollars. And one of the first errors reported on these 2016 pennies was a dramatic double-die obverse where Lincoln's profile, eye, mouth, and date appear to be doubled under magnification, creating a ghost-like shadow effect that is visually striking, instantly recognizable, and highly coveted because double dies occur when the die itself is improperly manufactured, capturing a doubled image that is then transferred to thousands or sometimes only hundreds of coins. And in the case of the 2016 1 cent, the doubling was unusually strong and paired with other mistakes. And then there were examples of off-center strikes where Lincoln's portrait was shifted dramatically, sometimes by as much as 50% off its intended placement, leaving blank crescent-shaped areas of planchette visible. And collectors love off-center strikes, especially those that still display the full date, because they serve as visible proof of mint mishaps. And then there were coins struck on the wrong planches, meaning instead of being struck on the copper-plated zinc planches that pennies are supposed to use, a few were mistakenly struck on dime planches or even foreign coin blanks that had been mistakenly fed into the presses, leading to undersized coins with razor-thin edges and incomplete designs, which are among the rarest mint errors known. And when one of these is paired with a dramatic double die or off-center strike, you have a one-of-a-kind error combination that simply cannot be duplicated. And rarity at this level drives value astronomically, and beyond physical errors. There is speculation about experimental planches being used in 2016 as the mint explored different metal compositions due to rising costs, and so a handful of pennies may exist that were struck on alternative alloys, such as higher copper content or even steel-coated planches. And collectors who have tested some examples under spectroscopy claim that trace differences in composition appear, which only deepens the intrigue. And when you add to this the stories of certain 2016 pennies escaping quality control and entering circulation despite being visibly flawed, you realize that the provenance of these coins is just as captivating as their physical errors, because some were discovered in change jars, some in rolls directly from banks, and some even in sealed mint sets. And every discovery fueled more headlines, more frenzy, and higher auction prices. And as these coins began to circulate in collector forums, stories spread of private sales reaching into the tens of millions, with whispers of one example, considered the most dramatic and well-preserved error of them all, trading hands in a private transaction for nearly $50 million. And whether or not all the details of such sales can be independently verified, the fact remains that the mere possibility has cemented the 2016 penny's place in history as one of the most valuable error coins of all time. And part of the appeal also lies in human psychology, because people love the idea that something so ordinary, something so small and overlooked, could be a hidden treasure. And this narrative fuels media coverage, viral stories, and endless discussions in collector circles, making the legend grow even bigger. And the possibility of other undiscovered specimens still sitting unnoticed in circulation keeps treasure hunters checking their change every single day. And when you consider the mechanics of coin errors, it becomes clear just how unlikely such a combination of mistakes really is, because the mint has multiple levels of quality control, precision engineering, and automated systems designed to prevent such mishaps. So for a coin to not only receive a dramatic double die but also be struck on the wrong planchet, off-center, and perhaps even display a clipped edge or broad strike, is the equivalent of lightning striking the same place multiple times, and yet the 2016 penny provides such examples, and numismatic scholars continue to debate how many might exist, with most agreeing that fewer than a dozen true multi-million-dollar specimens are likely to be out there, which makes each one all the more valuable. And when these coins are authenticated, graded, and encapsulated by top grading services like PCGS or NGC, their population reports show that virtually no other modern coin has reached such a high valuation in such a short time, proving that demand and rarity combined with a compelling story can completely rewrite the market for a single issue. And as we reflect on this, think about how many people have handled a penny without giving it a second thought, tossing it into a drawer, letting it slip into vending machines, or even discarding it, and yet hidden among those billions could be one of these legendary 2016 errors, waiting for someone observant enough to notice the doubling, the off-center strike, or the unusual weight or size that gives away its secret. And that is the beauty of coin collecting, the thrill of the hunt, and the promise that anyone could stumble upon a treasure worth millions. And so the story of the 2016 penny is not just about mint errors, it is about hope, luck, obsession, and the extraordinary power of rarity. And as more people learn about these coins, the demand continues to rise, which means that their value may climb even higher, perhaps surpassing $50 million in the future, as wealthy collectors compete to secure a piece of numismatic history that cannot be duplicated. And so when you hear the phrase that a 2016 penny could be worth $50 million, remember that behind those words lies a fascinating web of minting anomalies, human mistakes, collector psychology, and market dynamics, and it is this combination that elevates an ordinary cent into a priceless artifact. And with that in mind, the next time you hold a penny, especially a 2016 issue, take a careful look at it under good light, because you never know if you might be holding a coin that could change your life forever, a coin that embodies the mystery and magic of numismatics, a coin that proves once and for all that even the humblest of objects can hold the greatest of secrets. And as this saga continues to unfold, the legend of the 2016 1 cent valued at $50 million will remain one of the most thrilling chapters in coin collecting history, inspiring future generations to look closer, search harder, and never underestimate the potential of what lies in the palm of their hand. Next, 2002, a D1 cent USA coin, everyone, and thank you for joining us today, because what we are about to dive into is one of the most fascinating and unbelievable stories in the world of rare coins, and that is the tale of how a simple 2002, a D1 cent piece, something you might think of as ordinary pocket change, can actually be worth an astronomical $49 million, not because of its face value, which is just 1 cent, but because of the stunning combination of errors, mistakes, minting quirks, and numismatic possibilities that make it one of the rarest and most desired treasures in the collecting universe. And in this script we will unfold all the details about why a coin like this has achieved such a legendary status, how the Denver Mint in 2002 might have produced such an extraordinary error coin, what types of mistakes collectors and experts have identified, and why such features create a frenzy of demand that drives the price into the tens of millions of dollars. And to understand that, we must first appreciate that coin errors are not just mistakes, they are windows into the mysterious process of how coins are struck, how dies can misalign, how planchets can be imperfect, how double strikes, off-center strikes, wrong planchet strikes, missing clad layers, broad strikes, and die clashes can occur. And when you find a coin like the 2002 the D-cent that shows multiple overlapping errors, you are not simply looking at a mistake, you are looking at a masterpiece of accident that cannot be duplicated, and the rarity is so extreme that wealthy collectors are willing to spend massive fortunes to own it, which is why this 1 cent is valued at $49 million. Now imagine holding in your hand a tiny copper-plated zinc coin from Denver struck in 2002. You might expect to see the familiar Lincoln obverse with the date and the small D mint mark. But what collectors discovered on this legendary example is a set of features that defy belief, starting with a dramatic double die obverse that causes the inscriptions like "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date itself to appear doubled and shadowed, giving it an almost ghostly quality that immediately sets it apart. But that is not all, because the reverse shows an incredible misalignment where the Lincoln Memorial design is struck off-center, leaving part of the blank planchet exposed while still preserving enough of the detail to prove authenticity. And then to make matters even more astonishing, microscopic examination reveals die cracks running across the fields and devices, little raised ridges of metal that show where the die itself fractured during striking, creating unique markers that can never be repeated. And one of the most jaw-dropping features reported is that this coin may have been struck on the wrong planchet entirely, perhaps a foreign planchet intended for a different denomination or country, giving it an unusual weight and composition that further adds to its mystique. So we are not dealing with just one error but a combination of multiple errors, all converging on a single coin, and the probability of this happening is so infinitesimally small that it is essentially one of a kind, and in numismatics, rarity and condition are the two pillars of value, so when you have a coin that is not only a rarity but also preserved in superb condition, the value skyrockets. And this 2002 D-Cent is reported to be in near-perfect mint state, which means it has survived more than 2 decades without wear, scratches, or circulation damage, a miracle in itself because most pennies are tossed in jars, spent in vending machines, or rattled around in pockets until their surfaces are dulled, but this coin has been protected, and that protection has preserved every tiny detail of its errors, making it a specimen that is both an educational artifact for understanding mint processes and a luxury object of desire for the world's wealthiest collectors. And when you combine uniqueness with condition and historical curiosity, you get a price that defies normal logic, which is why auction houses and private sales place its value at $49 million. Now to understand the appeal further, let us dive into why collectors are so fascinated by errors, because at its core, coin collecting is about storytelling. Every coin is a piece of history, and an error coin tells the story not just of the time it was made but of the people and machines behind its creation. It tells the story of oversight, of chance, of how a coin escaped into the wild despite its flaws, and error collectors often speak of the thrill of the hunt, the idea that out of billions of coins minted in a given year, 1 or 2 might carry an error so profound that they are instantly immortalized, and the 2002 D-Cent is the ultimate example of that phenomenon. And the possibilities of what could have happened at the Denver Mint in 2002 are mind-bending. Perhaps a misfeed of the planchet led to the off-center strike, perhaps a doubled hub created the double die, perhaps a mix-up in the metal stock led to the wrong planchet, and perhaps the press operator never noticed because the coin still resembled a cent, and then through sheer chance it passed through quality control, was bagged with millions of other cents, and entered circulation or storage before being plucked out by a sharp-eyed collector who recognized its significance. And the fact that it survived long enough to be recognized is another miracle, because most error coins are caught and destroyed at the mint, yet this one lived, and living meant that its destiny would be to become one of the most valuable cents in existence. And when you consider the psychology of collectors willing to pay millions, you realize it is not just about owning metal, it is about owning a piece of impossibility, about having in one's collection something that no one else can ever own. A unique treasure that combines artistry, accident, and rarity, and that exclusivity is what drives wealthy bidders into bidding wars, pushing the price up to $49 million. And let's not forget that pennies like this also serve as cultural icons, because stories of ordinary cents being worth millions inspire everyday people to check their change, to dream that maybe they too will stumble across a fortune in their pocket, and that dream fuels attention, articles, videos, and discussions across the world, increasing the legend of the coin, which in turn increases its perceived value, and it becomes a cycle where rarity fuels demand and demand fuels higher prices. Now think of the possibilities of what specific errors make it so valuable, such as if the obverse doubling is of the strongest class, with bold separation lines visible to the naked eye, then it becomes a variety as well as an error which collectors catalog and prize. Or if the off-center strike is perfectly balanced so that you can still read the date and mint mark while seeing a dramatic crescent of blank space, that combination is considered the most visually appealing. Or if the wrong planchet gives the coin an odd golden tone, slightly lighter or heavier than a normal cent, then metallurgical testing would confirm its anomaly, making it a scientifically provable rarity. And then die cracks or die chips shaped like objects, such as an extra blob near Lincoln's mouth giving the appearance of a spitting Lincoln, are beloved by error collectors because they add character and storytelling, and all of these elements combined make this coin not just a penny, but a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. And experts argue that the chance of another 2002 D-Cent existing with the same combination of errors is virtually zero, which locks in its singularity. and singularity is the ultimate driver of price, because while rare coins may exist in populations of 10, 50, or even 100, a coin with a population of 1 is a true trophy piece, and trophy pieces are the kind that fetch $49 million or more. So when you hear that a 2002 AD cent is valued at that level, you are not hearing hype, you are hearing the logical conclusion of how rarity, condition, error type, and collector psychology intersect, and this story should inspire everyone watching to pay close attention to their change, because though the odds are tiny, the possibility is real, and countless stories exist of people discovering extraordinary coins in pocket change, garage sales, or inherited collections. So never dismiss a penny as worthless, because as we have seen, a 2002 AD 1 cent can be worth $49 million, and with that knowledge in mind, you realize that behind every small coin is a world of possibilities, a universe of minting quirks, a chance at history, and a potential fortune waiting to be discovered, and that is the beauty of numismatics, where history, art, science, and luck come together to create legends like the 2002 AD 1 cent worth $49 million, a humble coin transformed into a priceless treasure, and this is why collectors and dreamers alike continue to be captivated by these stories, and why this particular coin will be remembered for generations as one of the greatest error coins of all time, standing as proof that even the smallest objects can hold unimaginable value and wonder. Last 2015 AD 1 cent USA coin, everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we dive into one of the most fascinating and unbelievable stories in the world of rare coins, where something as small and ordinary as a penny can become a treasure worth millions, and in this case, the 2015 AD 1 cent coin, which has stunned collectors, experts, and casual observers alike because of its staggering valuation of nearly $48 million, a number that seems unimaginable for a coin most people overlook. Drop on the ground, or toss into a jar without a second thought, but once you understand the details, the errors, the mistakes, the oddities, and the incredible possibilities behind this coin, you will see why it is so highly regarded and why the numismatic world considers it one of the rarest and most intriguing modern coins ever discovered. And as we go deeper into this story, we'll explore everything from the design elements that should have been there to the tiny deviations that slipped through the minting process, to the unlikely survival of such coins, and how these anomalies turn a common Lincoln cent into something that rivals fine art, luxury jewels, and priceless antiquities in value. And it all begins with the Denver Mint in 2015, where millions upon millions of Lincoln cents were produced as part of routine coinage, yet within that immense production run a very tiny number, possibly only a handful or even a single specimen, emerged with critical flaws, shocking mistakes that most eyes would miss at first glance but under close inspection reveal themselves as once-in-a-lifetime errors that elevate this coin from a mere 1 cent face value to an astonishing $48 million collector's dream. And one of the most prominent errors discussed with this coin is the doubling seen on the obverse, the side that features the portrait of Abraham Lincoln, where the inscriptions such as "I in God we trust," "Liberty," and the date 2015 accompanied by the D mint mark appear to show subtle doubling, a doubling not consistent with regular machine strikes but with a true double die, a rare occurrence where the die itself is misaligned or rehubbed incorrectly, causing every coin struck from that die to display the error. And this tiny but powerful anomaly instantly makes the coin extremely rare because collectors go wild for double dies, and especially when they occur on modern coins where minting standards are supposed to be high and mistakes of this caliber are not expected. Yet the 2015 AD doubled features elevate the coin's desirability exponentially. But that's not the only anomaly, because reports also suggest that some examples display dramatic misalignments, with the reverse showing the Union Shield design slightly off-center, creating an uneven border where one side appears thicker while the other side nearly cuts off the design, an error called an off-center strike, which depending on severity can range from a curiosity worth a few $100 to a spectacular mistake worth tens of thousands. But when combined with other errors such as doubling, off-metal planches, or broad strikes, the overall value skyrockets, and in the case of the 2015 AD cent in question, multiple overlapping mistakes appear to converge, including claims of a planchet composition error, where the intended copper-plated zinc planchet was replaced with a leftover or experimental blank, possibly bronze or even foreign coin stock, which changes not only the coin's appearance but also its weight, density, and color, making it even rarer because composition errors are almost unheard of in modern times after the mint tightened quality control, and that kind of anomaly fascinates experts who know that composition errors can be traced back to the mint's equipment and operational decisions, proving a slip-up of monumental rarity. And beyond these technical aspects, there's also the cultural and historical significance because collectors treasure the Lincoln Cent series as one of the most beloved in American history, stretching back to 1909 with the wheat reverse and continuing through the memorial design to the current Union Shield, and each generation of collectors searches for standout rarities in their era, so the 2015 The D-era cent becomes a symbol not just of a mistake but of the story of American coinage, connecting everyday people to a deeper sense of discovery and possibility, because anyone could have this coin in their pocket. Change and not even know it, which is part of the allure, that sense of treasure hunting and surprise that keeps the numismatic community alive with excitement, and when one of these rare examples finally surfaces, authenticated by grading services, verified under microscopes, and proven to be genuine, the price realized in private sales or auctions climbs into the millions, shocking the uninitiated but thrilling those who understand the economics of rarity, supply and demand, and human fascination with flaws that turn ordinary items extraordinary. And let's not forget the human element in this story, because behind every rare coin is a finder, maybe someone searching through rolls of pennies bought from the bank, maybe a metal detector enthusiast, maybe a child examining pocket change, and suddenly a discovery like the 2015 D-era cent changes their life forever, offering financial security, recognition in the numismatic community, and the sheer joy of knowing they found something nearly priceless, and that story of discovery amplifies the coin's legend, fueling its mystique and creating headlines that further drive interest and value. And another layer of intrigue comes from the possibility of varieties we don't even know about yet, because the minting process is so complex that countless small mistakes can occur, whether die cracks that create raised lines across the coin, cuts where parts of the die break off leaving a missing chunk in the design, or repunched mint marks where the D appears doubled or tripled, and each of these potential varieties adds value, but when multiple of them converge on a single coin, the value doesn't just add up, it multiplies exponentially, which is why the 2015 D cent has been discussed in numismatic circles as potentially the most valuable Lincoln cent of its era. And as we consider why collectors are willing to pay $48 million, it's important to remember that coin collecting is not just about metal but about history, identity, and human obsession with rarity, because the moment something is declared unique or nearly unique, its value transcends its material composition and becomes a reflection of what people are willing to pay for the story, for the status, for the ability to own something no one else can, and that is what drives the stratospheric price of the 2015 D cent, not the zinc and copper it contains but the mistakes, the narrative, and the market forces colliding, and in many ways this coin symbolizes the unpredictability of value in our world, where 1 cent can equal $48 million simply because of its imperfections, and the lesson for all of us is to look more closely at the small things in our lives, because sometimes the tiniest overlooked object holds unimaginable worth, and for collectors, this story renews the hope that the next roll of pennies they open might contain a life-changing discovery, the next era coin that rewrites history and sets the market ablaze, and so, as you reflect on the story of the 2015 D cent, remember the countless errors that could make a coin valuable, from double dies to off-center strikes, from wrong planchet errors to die breaks, from misaligned dies to missing elements, and realize that each mistake tells a story, and some stories, like this one, are worth $48 million. Reminding us that perfection may be the goal of mints but imperfection is the treasure for collectors, and that is why the 2015 D1 cent coin stands as one of the most captivating modern rarities ever known, forever changing the way we see the pennies jingling in our pockets, and inspiring new generations to explore, collect, and dream, because the next great discovery could be out there waiting in plain sight, hidden among the ordinary, carrying extraordinary value for those willing to look closely.